Hello everyone and welcome to This Nintendo Life episode 70. My name is NBZ and I'm here and waiting with a hay fever in my nostrils. But that's not going to stop me from recording a podcast, I'll tell you what. I'll do my utmost to make sure we always are here every 2 weeks. And someone else who will make sure that that is the case is my co-host. It's Bally. Hello Bally, how are you doing?
Hi MBZ, I'm feeling a little less hay fevery than you are at this very moment.
I guess Brussels somehow has less pollen floating around the air.
I mean, it has a lot, but it's just not got quite as much as the UK does today.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a bad summer for me in particular, but really feeling in the throes of it right now, which is unfortunate. But that doesn't mean it's going to stop me from talking about the video games. And that's what we're here to do today. Bally, will you tell us what our show is? What will episode 70 entail? Give us the goss.
Episode 70 will entail what we've been playing. We're going to talk about some of your emails, and then for our third segment this time, we are going to look forward into the rest of 2016 and have a bit of a discussion about what Nintendo has to offer in terms of both games coming out and hopefully some NX announcements.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good after E3 to take a look at, what actually is coming out. And I think, it's funny, you look at a company like Sony and their E3, everyone hailed as incredible, and then you're like, well, what's Sony got coming out in the next 6 months? Last Guardian? Okay, well, cool. We'll wait until 2017 and 2018, I guess. But I think Nintendo definitely have some stuff, so we'll discuss. Before we do that, Bally, we're going to jump into things we've been playing. I've been all over the shop. I was in London playing stuff and doing loads, and I've played a lot since I've come back, but I know you have also been diving into a couple of indie games going out there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was in London briefly as well, not briefly, quite a long time, and then briefly on back-to-back weekends, but I managed to squeeze in some Freedom Planet. So
you did.
This is a game on it was part of the humble Nintendo Humble Bundle again, and this
the
is
Friends of Nintendo bundle.
The Friends of Nintendo bundle. You've also played this game.
I did, and I said I would save to talk about it until you had finished it.
So I played the demo when Nintendo did the interesting sort of Nindies event last year at E3, so it was 2015.
Yes, that was like a free demo download for a bunch of titles, and if you download the demo, you get a percentage off the final product, right?
Exactly. And so I played the demo then, and I really wasn't that impressed. Like, it was just more... It felt a lot like 2D Sonic. I've never been the biggest fan of 2D Sonic. Like, I enjoyed it at the time. I enjoyed Sonic Advance. I'd never really played much more 2D Sonic than that, and I didn't feel like this game did anything different. However, when I actually got the game in the Humble Bundle, having completed it, this game far surpassed my expectations. It really does make Sonic look like absolute garbage in my view.
Wow.
And the three things I think it does far better than Sonic are incredible boss battles, incredible music, and tell you what, it's got a really cool and interesting story that is actually told really well.
I think, I think that a lot of people, when I heard them talk about this game, were like, well, I just played it on the... There's a second mode, because you can do
a speedrun mode that you can play without the cutscenes.
Right, there's no cutscenes or anything, and I heard people like Guillaume on RFN saying that he played with that, or he just skipped through cutscenes, I can't remember. But I wasn't really expecting much out of that, and you get to them, and I don't think the voice acting is incredible, but I think it works for the aesthetic they're going for.
It's super hammed up, it's super cheesy, and it's just so cool.
Yeah, totally. It feels like a cartoon, doesn't it? It feels like, Saturday morning cartoon style thing. It's like, with maybe a little bit more serious edge to it.
It's such a good way of having 2D sprites, act in a cutscene for a 2D platformer. Like, it's so unusual. Like, I can't think of any other games that have such in-depth cutscenes for a 2D platformer.
Right, you usually don't expect them to be done in-engine. You expect, splash screens of, images or sort of stuff like that, or maybe an animated thing.
Certainly not voice-acted. Like, they really overstep the mark on that in that area, and the whole presentation is just so well done.
Absolutely. Animation is superb. Like, it runs incredibly smoothly. It just looks the part in every single way.
And I'll be honest, like, I don't actually think the main levels themselves are that much more different or more interesting or less interesting than perhaps 2D Sonic. But like I said, the bosses at the end of those levels are just so like interesting and fun to beat, and like they're so varied, and they're actually really, really difficult, a lot of them. So I think we both play this game on easy, which basically means your health regenerates very slowly. And when I say very slowly, I mean very slowly. Like, it takes a full like 4 or 5 seconds just to get like half a heart or half a whatever you call it in this game. I don't know what they are.
Just health points. Whatever.
Health points, yeah. But man, those bosses just add so much, and the way that they're just tied into the story and everything that's going on in this game, it's a really, really complete package.
Totally. I do think that it can be approached as something that, you know, is very friendly to any kind of newcomer, but I imagine going on the harder difficulties will make you like want to scream probably, because the amount of damage you take and stuff like that really seems like it's just operating on all levels. You know, it seems like it's catering to fans of Sonic and Genesis platformers. It's catering to kind of newer audiences or younger audiences who want to jump in at an easier level. It just seems like a full-rounded, just well-presented. I think when I mentioned this before, you may agree with me now, is I think that Freedom Planet is to Sonic what Shovel Knight is to Mega Man in the modern era, in that it takes those elements that made those old games good, but refines them and improves on them and streamlines them to this point where it is a much smoother and nicer experience to play in the modern day.
Yeah, I completely agree. It has so much going for it, just like Shovel Knight, and it just does everything that little bit better. Like, for example, there's like some of the later levels that like the main villain in the whole game is like he's like talking to you as you're playing through the stage, and he's just
right,
like,
yeah,
and he'll say like, oh, you got through that, try this, and then all of a sudden there's all these guns just start opening up on during the level that you're running about, and it's just like, it's quite cool that the voices talking to you are actually impacting the gameplay like live in front of you. Like, that's quite an unusual thing that obviously tons of games do, but ultimately games that are 2D platformers in the style of Sonic don't really do that kind of thing, and it just feels like they put a real effort to say, you know what, Sonic did this, we're going to make it better and do this. And almost every area is better than Sonic, honestly. It's just so well implemented. And it's one of those things where it's one of those games I just wouldn't have bought normally. I saw the quick look on like Giant Bomb. I'd seen a few reviews, which are, I mean, they are positive reviews, but I always thought to myself, I don't really enjoy 2D Sonic a whole lot. But that's the great thing about these Humble Bundles, is it lobs games at you that you wouldn't normally think about. And then you're like, oh my god, I've got this game. Well, I guess I have to play this game. It'd be an absolute waste for me not to play this game. And then
especially if you're Bally and you have to get rid of your backlog.
You have to clear everything. So the fact that you'd played the Emblem and you said, it's actually a pretty good game. And I was like, yeah, no, I'll play it. So I played it. Really great. And it's just those unexpected experiences that when, you know, you come to the end of the year and you're talking about your favorite games of the year, this is going to do well because it's just so unexpected, and it's quite a nice feeling when that happens.
And you played as Lilac the whole game, right?
I did. I tested all the other characters.
Interesting. I didn't do that.
In like, there's a time attack mode, and I just wanted to see what they all felt like, just to give it a go. And you can't actually change during the story mode. You have to play the entire story mode with each character, which is maybe not a great thing this game does.
I don't know. I'd be interested to see if maybe the story adapts to whether you play as different characters, because it seems like those cutscenes are actually tailored for playing as Lilac.
I mean, ultimately, Lilac is infinitely better and more fun to play as than the other ones. It's
especially like her move in the air where she spins in the middle of the air. That, like, I relied on that for so many boss fights and enemies, like, all the time.
Like, and I really think that maybe Lilac is sort of the bog standard character, but then for someone who wants to really test their skill and go to the next level, the other characters, that's what they're designed for. Like they're designed.
Yeah, 100%.
They're designed on purpose to make it more difficult.
It's for people who really love and want to replay this game again and again. Which was a similar thing with Sonic Advance, where you had the 4 characters and you could go through with all of them.
Yeah, and like this game's it's got like time attack modes, and it tells you like your time for when you do story mode. Like it's really designed to be welcoming to speedrunners, and that's quite a nice thing to see in games these days.
Yeah, especially right now because SGDQ is just happening. So.
DQ, yeah, absolutely. No, I need to catch up on some of that. But
yeah, same. No, I haven't watched any of it live.
It's a fantastic game. Great game, Freedom Planet. Would highly recommend. Second game I've been playing quite a bit of, I'm up to about World 11 or 12, is Box Boy, and I know that you've been playing a bit of this as well, Lordnbz.
I have indeed. The sequel to one of our favourite games from last year, developed by HAL, I believe, and this came out in Japan a couple of months ago. It seems like we always get like maybe a couple of month delay between these little indie Japanese games coming out. It's not an indie game, but it feels like one all the time, doesn't it? Like,
it's got the price of one. It's only £4.50 or so.
It's one of those things that I think more companies need to do, and I think who is it? There's Ubisoft who do the like Valiant Hearts and stuff like that, which are like definitely a smaller team, smaller experience for a lower price. I just love when that happens because you've got great studios out there, and when they're not pouring all their time and effort into the AAAs, I think it's good
Nintendo,
to do that.
Try it more.
Yeah, do it more because
they did like that game Dylan's Rolling Western. Could you argue that's of that ilk? I guess.
Yeah,
I never
absolutely.
played that, and it had very mixed reviews, I believe. But
yeah, it did. It's one of those games I'd like to maybe go back to at some point.
Yeah.
But Box Boy, Bally, how has it been treating you?
So I kind of stepped back and I thought, right, what did they actually change about this game that makes it different to the first game? And the answer is you can have 2 sets of boxes rather than 1.
Yeah.
And I thought, right. So basically, it's the equivalent, because we always say that the step up from Mario Galaxy 1 to Mario Galaxy 2, like they do far more than just give you more levels. They actually implement different power-ups, the complete world designs in some of those levels are completely different. So I sort of thought like, so they've just given you Mario Galaxy 2 and given you a double jump. Like,
right.
I was kind of concerned. I thought, right, it's really, really simple what they've done, and I don't really see how it's going to change much. But ultimately, rather than doubling the possibilities of what you can do with levels, it multiplies the possibilities of what you can do, because it really does actually fundamentally change how you play the game quite drastically than what I first imagined. Like, for example, creating a row, I believe this is around World 7, so creating a row of blocks, and then you can use a second row of blocks to propel the first row of blocks into position to hit switches and things. Yes. And that's just something you couldn't do at all in the first game. So although all the mechanics are lobbed from the first game to this game, you're playing through them in a completely different way, and it really does feel completely different. I think it's a massive shame they didn't maybe add in 3D. It's a bit weird that this is an exclusively 3DS game without 3D, but so be it.
Yeah, I remembered as soon as I tried to turn it on, I was like, oh, wait a second, the first Box Boy didn't do this either. It's not like it needs it at all, but it's just weird, isn't it, when it happens?
It is weird, and like it's a game that would look quite nice and crisp and clean in 3D, but that's life. It's a fantastic game regardless. I'm up to about World 12 or so, and I believe it's got the same number of worlds, so sort of 16 to 18 worlds, which really they take a really long time in the later levels, and
especially if you're going for all the crowns as well.
Exactly, and I will be going for all the crowns, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to do the bonus world. There's like a separate bonus world.
Challenge world, yeah.
Challenge world, yeah. I might leave that, but just focus on story mode. I've been carrying my 3DS around specifically the last few days to get hint coins, because...
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've just decided I need to be more open to using hint coins, because it just speeds it up, it makes it a bit more smooth. So yeah, the last few days I've gone into work, brought my 3DS, come back with 10 hint coins ready to go. I'm stocking them up. I've been finishing Freedom Planet, but now I'm going to get back to Box Boy and finish it off.
Good stuff. That's a smart move, actually. I haven't had to use a hint coin yet, but I will say the game
Don't resist.
No, I won't, but the game is... I just beat World 8, and it is way more challenging than the first one. It feels like the ramp up starts far faster, and it's almost to a level where if you haven't played the original, I say play that first, because there are certain kind of really hardcore mechanics and like box boy tips and tricks and hint, like there are certain things that I do in that game that seem really weird and would be hard to figure out for someone who hadn't played the first game and know like the inside track, if you know what I mean.
There's some really weird stuff you can do where you're using blocks to push yourself off walls and stuff and off the ground, and you can get into really stupid positions that you kind of think, oh, how on earth does this link to that? But then it always works out in the end. You're like, I don't know. There's some really weird stuff you can do, but it's very much a game about sitting there for a while and banging your head against it, which I know you love doing. But the solutions when you get them are just uniquely satisfying. They just very satisfying.
Scratch that itch.
And there's great sound design when you complete levels in Plinky Plonks and that. It sounds good. But that's
it's a good podcast game as well.
Perfect podcast game. Cannot be better podcast game.
I will say, we bring up this comparison I do a lot, is the Beetle and Skyward Sword of it being this multi-purpose thing. I think Box Boy is the ultimate in the Beetle as an item, because the box is used for literally everything. You use it to snake through areas, you use it to push up things, you like hook onto the edge. Like, it is like the most multi-purpose utility tool available, and I just think that designing levels around this one singular mechanic is just so smart and hard to do, but they just fucking nail it. And as you said, all they do with adding extra boxes, expand the possibilities. So yeah, I'd say it's not impressed me as the first one as much, because I know what's coming. It's the same thing again. Yeah. But again, that's not a bad thing. Like, it's great to have more of it. So I'm happy.
So that's Box Boy. I think we're both going to try and finish it for next time. But
we'll see, yeah.
MBZ, you have been playing an absolute wealth of games. Let's go through.
I have. Oh my god. So I finished Pikmin 3. Which we talked about last time. I said I'd got maybe 2/3 of the way through.
Just blasted through the end.
I did. So yesterday I spent 5 hours sat down, and from the third boss to the end of the game, just mainlined it. Just absolutely went for it. If I didn't have more games to play and other stuff going on, I would maybe have taken the time to do what you did and get all the fruits and go around and explore. Would you say that a lot of those areas have interesting puzzles and things to get the other fruits, or what would you recommend doing it, or is it not really a big deal?
I think yes and no. If you really enjoyed it and you're willing to go get all the fruit, it's very satisfying to go and get. But ultimately, you can definitely leave it. I definitely at least give the time trial levels literally one go just to see what they're about. But
okay,
I mean, because I got seriously addicted to those in co-op.
Does this game have some kind of online? I seem to remember people saying...
so it's got online leaderboards, but no online. You can't play together online.
Right, okay.
So it basically gives you a big bar chart, and like Mario Kart with time trials, and shows you how quick you are compared to the rest of the world.
Man, I hope Pikmin 4 adds in online co-op, because that's like a split screen mode, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, now that you've tried it, we should definitely try out some co-op sometime with that game, because
totally.
it's really satisfying, and I got massively addicted to it with my friend Shaq before.
You did, yeah. I remember you talking about that back then.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so I will say, I think that maybe the end of Pikmin 3 feels a little bit more familiar than I would like it to, in the sense that you get these new Pikmin, and you get the winged ones and the blue ones, so you can go different places, but you don't really end up doing that much different. These seem to be more like keys to unlock doors, because it's the same idea of, hey, I need to build this bridge, but the thing that's stopping me from getting there is not having the water Pikmin or not having the winged Pikmin. So the solutions seem like they're just the same. I'm just getting new and different things to bypass them. So I think maybe in the future I'd be interested if they try to figure out some different mechanics, some new things to throw in there, other than, hey, you can go through water now. It just seems a little bit superfluous and not actually expanding that much. But it's fine. I understand, the design and why they've gone for it. And they totally do make things a bit more interesting. For example, when you have those bridges that can be lifted by the wing Pikmin, and then you have water Pikmin going underneath them. I like that kind of convergence where they take two elements and kind of smash them together.
I think the winged Pikmin are so satisfying to just watch get about their business.
They are, but you also need to fucking watch where they go, especially in, I think, Twilight Land or whatever it's called, because of the bees. Yeah, the bees and their fucking webs. So there was a fruit that I wanted to take back, and I was like, okay, winged Pikmin, just fucking go. And I didn't realize, but there's a net like right next to it, and they all just fucking run into it and die. And like 20 winged Pikmin just gone like that. I'm like, oh fuck. Like there are points at which you lose all these Pikmin, and I'm like, should I restart the day? And I ended up not doing it most of the time because it's easy enough to get them back. Like, seems a little bit harsh, but it's like fucking. I don't. It's like
guilt.
Yeah, you feel like a World War I commander just standing there. Well, I guess they didn't actually feel guilt because they were fucking assholes, sending all the soldiers to the battlefield. But that's kind of what it's like with the Pikmin. It's like, they're so disposable, I'll just fucking get more tomorrow, you know?
Just grow some more.
Yeah, it doesn't make a big difference. But I think I agree with you mostly when I say, like, the bosses are probably the standout element of this game. They are smartly designed, and I really like the idea that you can chip away and damage them and then come back later and go at them. I never ended up doing that. I was able to kind of contain it and just do it without having to worry in a single day. But I think that's a smart design choice. And I was watching a bit of Chugga Conroy play, and he was saying that in Pikmin 1 and 2, they don't do that. Apparently, you have to basically restart if you miss them.
I mean, a lot of the Pikmin 2 bosses are actually underground, and underground has no time limit.
Oh, okay.
It's weird. It's like dungeons. It's like layered dungeons that you go down floors.
Oh, okay. So it just disappears and allows you as much as you want.
Not all, but some, or maybe most of the Pikmin 2 bosses are down there. But I need to go back and play that game, so I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it's a bit different.
Awesome. Yeah. Well. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it was a lesson in a new Nintendo franchise, and I think I have been converted. I think you
have the bug for a bit of Pikmin 4.
Oh boy, yeah. Go ahead, pun yourself crazy, Valley. Go for it. I'm definitely gonna play Pikmin 4 when it comes out. I'm on board. I'm part of the camp, and get me my flag, get me my T-shirt, sign me up.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So the other thing, the main thing I've been playing is the other Fire Emblem game.
Oh boy.
Of the trilogy, the second one. So, Bally, my thoughts on Birthright are well known. I was very disappointed. I was underwhelmed by many aspects.
Don't like that change.
Nope, I don't like that change. I thought
damn change.
It was bad. So I was maybe a little more trepidatious going into Conquest. I've heard people sing its praises, but as someone who wasn't a fan of Birthright, I've also heard other people sing Birthright's praises. So, have to be steady here, going in with an open mind. And Conquest, to put it in frank terms, Bally, shits all over Birthright in literally every respect.
I'm really interested to see how this is the case, bearing in mind they have the same mechanics.
Yes. So okay.
Because that was your biggest fault with Birthright, was ultimately that the sort of color coding thing with different weapons, it didn't make sense to you. I'm interested to see how you think this makes sense.
So I think the reason it's making more sense to me is because Conquest has more traditional classes in terms of Fire Emblem. So I have a knight who goes into a general. I have a cavalier. I had a cavalier in Birthright, but I have multiple cavaliers who turn into paladins and great knights. I have mages who turn into sorcerers. I have these known classes, these known entities, which I have used for years, and therefore instinctively understand how they interact with other units. The problem on the Birthright side is you have samurai and ninja, and they are ostensibly the same in many respects, but the disconnect in terms of the naming convention, things like Rinka, who is the axe user, who's like an Omni Chieftain or something. I'm like, I don't fucking know what an Omni Chieftain is. And to add to that, she uses clubs instead of axes. So the whole clubs thing messed up my brain a lot. There were a lot of elements in Birthright that made me confused, and that didn't help.
Is it almost like Conquest? Yes, it has the same mechanics as Birthright, but it's not just lobbing in the extra dose of change with all the different classes, So Birthright is like, right, here's a new mechanics, here's new classes, get used to it. Whereas Conquest is saying, here's some new mechanics, but we'll give you your traditional classes and you can understand it a bit better.
Oh, totally. I think Birthright throws you in at the deep end with that stuff. Conquest helps for me, having played Birthright already, because I have become more accustomed now. I'm not as inflammatory as I was about the weapon triangle as before, right? Like, I'm coming to this game not fresh, and I think that was a smart choice to play Birthright to understand the mechanics, which allows me to come to Conquest and be like, okay, I have a certain level of understanding now that isn't going to piss me off because I've already, been past that point. So that is one factor in it. But it also just, on the level of the characters that you have from the outset, they just feel on an individual level much more capable and useful and powerful than any of the Birthright characters did. Like, I had that feeling in Birthright maps where I just couldn't kill enemies unless I had people paired up like multiple times. Like, someone pairs up for an extra attack, the enemy still isn't dead, and then another person comes in, they're still not dead. Like, those characters in Birthright feel fucking weak and pathetic, and you have to baby them a ton. Whereas in Conquest,
so you can actually one-shot stuff now.
Yeah, most of the time. I mean, the thing is, you definitely have to use the system of offense mode and not like pairing people up. That definitely is needed to get the bonus hits in.
Because you were quite a fan of that with Birthright, weren't you?
Yeah, but it feels like it is much more user-friendly, that like, if I want to take out this enemy, maybe on my own I can't do it, but if I get that last little extra push, I can. And that's the difference, because in Birthright it felt like it was useless because the next turn I'd be able to kill them anyway, right?
Yeah.
Whereas here it feels like it actually adds something and is valuable. And I don't know if that's, I feel like I'm playing better, but I think it is also that the characters are just straight up more powerful, so I feel more at home with them. And it feels like I'm playing this game much more akin to how I would play a GBA Fire Emblem game, where I'm not choosing people to pair up and marry. Like, I have made a stance. I'm not going to do the children in this run at all. I am not going there. I am not bothered with it. I have one pairing who are at S rank. Everyone else is all over the place because I just haven't worried about it. It's so much more focused on the tactics and thinking about placement of your units in opposition to your enemies, and making sure that you have someone available for the bonus attack means that you can't concentrate on having people always be next to each other all the time.
But aren't you in this essence getting more of a bonus once they've paired up longer? So when you get that extra attack, it'll do more damage.
The
more that they have ranked up more together.
Absolutely. And that obviously does much better when you have an S rank as opposed to like a B or something. But the benefit of doing this is that everyone likes everyone. So I'll have like at least a C or B with most characters.
That makes sense.
So
too,
it does kind of even out in the end. It makes it so that you can do that pretty well. But I think the one thing that stands out most of all from Conquest is the map design and how smart they're done and how challenging and yet fair they are. There was this point in Birthright where I lost Silas, who is the Cavalier, at the very end of a chapter. And that was the breaking point. I was like, fuck this, I'm going casual. Like, I couldn't care less. The map was so bland, it just had enemies pouring out of shitholes, you just kill them and go. Like, nothing interesting to it whatsoever. So I flipped the casual switch and just said, fuck it, because I literally didn't care. You get to a chapter in Conquest, which is infamous by some people, chapter 10, and it's really difficult. Like, you are put in a situation where you have to survive for a set number of turns. Enemies are flooding towards you. You have certain things which help you. Interesting mechanics, which I won't mention because it's interesting when you get to them. But I kept failing, and I kept failing. But the difference was, it was always fun to go back and replay that map. And that's the problem with Birthright, is it isn't fun to go back and just kill enemies again. This map was all about timing and strategy and placement and survival and knowing who to put where and risking things and going on a limb and thinking ahead and everything that you want from Fire Emblem. And it's like, I didn't turn off animations the whole time. Like, I could have done that to speed things up, but I was enjoying the experience of learning the map, getting to know it, getting better at it, and consistently going and ramming my head up against the wall. And when you beat it, it is a feeling that is incredibly satisfying, and you think, man, these people really thought about how to, approach a map design from a smart perspective where you challenge the player, but still make it eminently beatable and understandable and all of that stuff. And that's just like the thing about old Fire Emblem games that I like. Things like Chapter 5 in Sacred Stones, where getting Joshua and recruiting him is a challenge, because you have to talk to him with a healer who can't defend herself and will be killed by all the enemy units. And I remember when I was younger, playing Sacred Stones and hitting Chapter 5 on the head again and again and again until I got it. And that leads to me having these kind of nostalgic remembrances for those maps, and they just stay in my brain, and I can think now and I know the exact layout of Chapter 5 in Sacred Stones. The exact same thing is happening with Conquest. Chapter 10, Chapter 12, Chapter 17, these are maps in my mind that I've played again and again, and I just know them at this like integral level that gives me this feeling of like, this is something important and will be remembered in the future when I talk about this game. And when I think about Birthright, I can't fucking remember anything, aside from a few maps which are recycled. Now, I did ask people, and I was like, it seems like I'm doing a lot of Birthright maps over again. The difference is, obviously, they have varying objectives, and the enemies are all different and all that stuff. But it kind of surprised me that there were more Birthright maps in here than I maybe would have liked. I think, like, they say they're two completely different games, and yes, fundamentally they kind of are, but there's a lot of crossover going on. And you'll certainly recognize, places and locations you've been before in the other game when you get to this. So it's something that when you get to Conquest, Bally, if you get to Conquest.
I'm really interested to see how I find Conquest in comparison to Birthright, having listened to what you've said. Because I, as far away as it is, I do want to eventually play Conquest, hopefully this year. And it's because ultimately I'm quite enjoying Birthright so far. Obviously, I've not played much of it. I've still got a long way to go. But so far, the mechanics, I've said on the show already, that I'm broadly enjoying them. So I'm interested to see if I'll find Conquest as satisfying and gain as much from it as you have so far.
How hard have you found Birthright so far?
Kind of hard in parts, yeah.
I mean, I found it challenging as well, but
yeah.
I think the challenge in Conquest is a different kind of challenge. It's hard, but it's hard in a way that feels enjoyable. I think Birthright throws just reinforcements and enemies and things at you constantly, and it tries to derive difficulty from numbers. Whereas Conquest, there really aren't ever that many reinforcements. Like, you kind of start a map and you have these enemies, but the enemies will have specific elements. So there's one chapter where you're fighting all these like fox people, and there are no reinforcements, but you have this group to the north which have the skill Beastbane. And so if you send a cavalier in there, they will fucking eviscerate them and rip them to pieces. And you have this group in the other side which have the ability Pass, which is a thief ability, I think, in Awakening, which basically is super OP. It allows you to pass through enemy units, so you can just like walk through the enemy lines and get to the healers and stuff like that. So like making sure you know which enemies have which skills and managing them accordingly becomes a real intense process, and you just have to like slowly take your time and place units in the smart places and getting people there. And I've really felt I've crutched a lot more on using the Dragonstone with Corrin, my avatar character, because that gives a bunch of defensive boosts, and it really helps as like a wall. I think Birthright was missing that kind of element for me, where in this game I have a general who I can just stick at a choke point and say run at me, and I can like manage from there. And I've got Corrin with the Dragonstone, I've got Effie who's my general. It feels like I have more defensive options here that just make things much more playable and easy to do. So that's been really good. And again, like, just real quick, some of the boss stuff has been real strategizing. There's one boss where you get to the top of this tower, and they are surrounded by friendly units. And in order to get to them, like, I really wanted to take out all these other people first, because otherwise they would stack on top of each other and just eviscerate me. So I was using a tactic of, there's no rescue mechanic in this game, but one of the skills that Silas and another Cavalier unit you have is called Shelter, and Shelter is basically rescue, where you can put them next to a unit and bring them into you. essentially. Instead of the pair up mechanic of you going into them, it's the opposite. And so I had to utilize that, which I never once used in Birthright because it seemed useless. I had to use that to basically put someone in range and take them back out again. I had to use the rescue wand to zap someone back out who was too far in. I had to use the enfeeble wand, which is this new wand they have that lowers enemy stats. So you can use it on a boss, like take their stats down and then attack them and do a bunch of damage, and like throwing in my butler to reduce the stats first and then going in with some. It felt like I sat that boss and really thought about how to approach it. Whereas in Birthright, it was like, okay, here comes my avatar with the Grim or the Yato or whatever. I'm just going to kill them. Dead. Yeah. Like, zero thought whatsoever. It's just, I am powerful and you are now dead. So it feels like they are making you think, and it makes me like so happy. It's really smartly designed. It's just as beautiful as the other game. It sounds as good. Like, it has all the amazing elements of Birthright, but it has none of the bollocks. And that just
but you've got
absolutely...
a few more chapters to do.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I've played about the same amount hour-wise, because if you look at the clock in-game, it says, like, 19 hours. I've played more like 30 because of resets. Like, that's what happens. It doesn't count the time that you've actually done that. And I'm at chapter 21 now, I think, or I just beat 21. And I've heard the endgame is hard, but I'm really looking forward to it, because all these maps just have these interesting gimmicks that really make you think and, you know, have to approach them in multiple ways. Like, you go into a map, you're not going to beat it your first time. You just have to learn it first and figure out what it's trying to do with you. Then you nail it, and then you feel good.
Cool.
So, yeah. I'm loving it. I'm so much happier, so much higher on this new game now. And it feels like it's a good model maybe going forward for the franchise, in the sense that you have these people who like all this romance and marriage and children option stuff. But you also have that crowd who want that core old school experience. And by doing this, they have basically satiated both groups.
That's really good.
And that seems smart. It seems like something they should continue to do.
But, MBZ.
Yes.
Where is your favourite place to play video games?
My favourite place to play video games is on my computer, maybe?
And where's that?
I don't know. It's in front of me right now.
No, but when you're not outside.
Right.
You like to play video games
inside. Thanks for teeing that up. I was like, where are you getting at? What are you trying to say here? Yes. Okay. So quickly then, because I don't actually want to say much about it, because it's one of those games that you shouldn't.
You just have to experience.
You should just play. So I've been playing Inside. Which came out on Steam yesterday, and I played the whole thing yesterday in one sitting. This is a game from the studio Playdead. They made Limbo back in 2010, I believe. And Limbo was also a game which I sat down and played in one sitting. And that was, this puzzle platformer with this very unique aesthetic, this kind of black and white thing going on. And the thing with Limbo was it was all about killing you brutally and like all these horrible death animations, but it was about figuring things out in a puzzle platforming kind of style of thing. And so Inside is this follow-up. It's taken them 6 years to make it, but you see that 6 years in every single frame of this game. It is absolutely beautiful to look at. It is so well crafted. The animation is just unbelievable. And the way you interact in the environment is the most seamless and smart and simple. And like, there are some areas where I'm interacting with stuff and I'm thinking, how did the designers know that I would think that this is something to interact with? Because everything blends into the environment so well. And yet when there is something that you need to use, it is very apparent and obvious, and yet it still fits the aesthetic, and it is just kind of mind-blowing how smartly designed it is. And it's melancholy, it's haunting, it has this like somber atmosphere. There's not really any music, it's just kind of these moody sounds, and you just play as this boy. You're going through this kind of Soviet-esque, should I say, kind of complex, kind of feels very, Eastern Bloc, and you are just solving puzzles and figuring things out, and there's this weird undertone, there's some creepy vibes going on, and it's just brilliant, so smart. It has an ending that is just fucking blowing your mind. just fucking play it. Like, it is one of the best games of the year. It took me 3 hours.
That's good.
So it is absolutely a thing you can sit there and do in one shot. And I recommend doing that. There's something about these games that just hooks me in, that just grabs me and doesn't want to let go. Because you're just going forward continuously. You're solving puzzles. I just really like, you know, that loop of continually, you know, figuring things out and seeing some new stuff. Like, every time a new mechanic is introduced, I'm like, whoa, that's really cool. I didn't even think about that.
Were there any parts that just completely stumped you that you just had to stop and look up online? Or
no, and actually, that was the thing. I really thought that there were a couple of times,
for example.
No, the Swapper was way more difficult. I thought, like, there were moments I would spend like 10 minutes on something, but I would think about it and I was like, wait, what if I tried this? There's one in particular I'm thinking of that I'm like, oh my, like, when I figured it out, I was like, holy shit, that is the most genius fucking solution in the world. And it is so subtle and brilliant. And it took me like ages to figure out. But once I got it, I was like, what? Like, oh my lord, like, the words are failing me now because it's so hard to talk about without going into specifics.
Yeah,
like, if you have an Xbox One or a PC, don't look anything up. Just play it, please. It is it's one of the best games of the year. It is fucking amazing. Bally, you would absolutely fucking love this game on every level. It is incredible.
It's a shame it's just on Xbox One and PC, but
it is.
Maybe you should just sit me down next time I'm at yours.
Oh,
and
yes.
I'll just speed run
man,
it.
dude, I would love that. I'd love to just watch someone else play this game.
We can record it.
Oh, totally.
We can have a chat. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, 100%. So yeah, one of my picks for best games this year. I'm so high on it. I think it's fucking fantastic.
As if you hadn't played enough Fire Emblem.
Yeah, as if.
What else have you been up to?
Well, I've only played the first couple of hours today of it, but Tokyo Mirage Sessions came. That's the reason I busted through Pikmin 3. Japan anime is here.
Colors, noises.
It's really pretty. It's colourful. The aesthetic is super cool. It has kind of this pastel-y feel to it. Like, the shaders they use on the characters feel really soft. Like, it has this kind of glow about it that really is welcoming. It's like the complete opposite of Inside, which is this dark, like, creepy, melancholy, haunting thing. And Tokyo Mirage, I almost said Massage. That's a very different game. Tokyo Mirage Sessions is like night and day compared to what Inside is. But yeah, it's fun so far. I'm really liking it. Very Japanese. The one thing that I thought was cool was the gamepad is basically your phone, so you get like WhatsApp style text messages on them, and the writing for it is like so fucking on point. I tweeted like a picture of it, and it's just like, it's totally what people say in text messages, like all these little, like, throwing in emoticons and things. Like, the localization seems pretty great, so I'm happy with that. And a little bit of battling seems cool. It's something that, you know, I've not played a lot of it, so I can't really talk about it much. Next time will be the deep dive. But yeah, that's why I wanted to beat Pikmin 3, so I could get into Tokyo Mirage Sessions. And yeah, so that's it. And the last thing I just want to say, today I just beat Mega Man 2 without save states. I just went from start to finish. It was a weird situation. My sister was using a laptop upstairs, and I decided I'm just going to stand here and play Wii U. So I just started Mega Man 2 up, and I just went through and beat it somehow. And I was like, wow, I didn't even realize I wasn't using save states.
That is up there with your top gaming feats, I must say.
I don't know.
I think it's a hard game.
Well, no, here's the thing. When you know the tricks and tips of Mega Man, it's not actually that difficult. I don't think Mega Man 2 is actually that hard.
You just like one-shotting all the bosses when knowing what weapon to use on them and all that.
Yeah, like when you do the boss rush mode, you can beat Metal Man in one hit using his own weapon against him, which is hilarious. Like, there are fun things like that in that game, which is like, yeah, like, once you know how to do stuff in Mega Man 2, it becomes really kind of not that hard. So, yeah, it worked out, and that's the first NES game I've ever beaten without using save states. So, achievement?
It's still something I'm yet to do.
It is, yeah.
Or Super Nintendo, I think. But
yeah, we'll see. Maybe one day. Who knows? But that's going to wrap us up. Whoa, so many video games to talk about. But, you know, it's summer. Things are happening. Usually a dead period, but we are playing stuff. So, enjoying ourselves, as always. But we are going to take a quick break before we get into some things that you want to talk about. And that will be in your email. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with a hit of that.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. It's that time again. It's time for the listener emails. We have a couple lined up this week, but as always, we are actually running really low. And I say as always, but this time we are running really low on some emails. And, you know, so much stuff has happened in the world of Nintendo, so definitely send in more. We always need more. Putting out the call.
And what is that email address, Bally? It would be helpful to send it to.
How could I forget? The email address is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That's ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. On to our first email, which is from Rickard, who's from Sweden. Hi, thanks for a wonderful podcast. I have a question regarding something that I keep hearing everywhere. I've heard both from you guys and other podcasters and game writers in general that the Wii U was a flop. From what I could find, the Wii U has sold some 12 million units, which I don't find that bad. I think Xbox One has sold some 15 million units, but I don't hear any similar discussions regarding that system. I'm really interested to learn why you think the system has been such a failure. Please correct my figures if I'm wrong, as I'm writing off the top of my head. Thanks again. Best regards, Rickard from Sweden.
Okay, well, interesting thought he has there on comparing the numbers between the systems. I think this email's a little old, so the numbers were a bit different. Bally, you were saying that you checked and the Xbox is around 19 million at this point in time.
Yeah, so I don't know whether Rickard's number was old or just wrong, but currently at this point in time, according to Wikipedia and whatever source it's using, it's currently on 19 million, the Xbox One, and I believe the Wii U is on around 12 to 13 million.
So I don't know if the Xbox One numbers are actually that accurate, because this generation, since they are behind Sony, they haven't been putting out official numbers themselves. So the way that people are kind of finding things out is they are taking numbers from people like EA, were saying like this many install base and that kind of stuff. So it's not 100% accurate, but I think that we can ballpark it to around an area where we think like this is probably what they're hitting at this point in the generation. Now, why then, even though the Wii U is maybe not that many millions behind, do people say the Wii U is this utter failure and Microsoft are doing okay? Well, in perspective, the 360 generation, at this same point in time, that system had sold around 10 to 11 million units. So the Xbox One is actually tracking ahead of what the 360 was at the same point in that generation. The thing is, the PS4 is so astronomically further ahead, and it is just tracking at this ridiculous rate that when you look in comparison between Sony and Microsoft, it looks like Microsoft are doing really terribly, whereas in fact they're doing fantastically well. They are just half what their competition is, and their competition has just kind of blown them out of the water.
And I think that's a really great comparison to make, and ultimately what is happening with Nintendo, and it's not helped by the fact that it's called a Wii U, is that we're just comparing it to the last generation, and the Wii obviously set ridiculous records. I can't even remember how many millions. I want to say like it's 100.
It's over 100.
Yeah, it's like over 100 million, which is insane for a home console. So ultimately, it's just getting compared straight against that. And no matter what trajectory you look at or whatever, 12 million by this point in time, about 5 years into the life cycle, is just terrible in comparison.
Yeah, and I think the problem is when you talk about Nintendo, it's not just that they've only sold this many number of consoles. That's one issue. But the issue about the Wii U being a flop is so much more focused on other surrounding, parts of the equation, where you have no third-party support. There are literally no major Western publishers who support the system. The indie support is good, but it is like pales in comparison to what you have on Xbox and PlayStation. Like, there are fundamental differences. Like, you talk about the software drought that continuously happens because Nintendo are the only people supporting their own console. The Xbox has a very healthy amount of games coming to it. Not only the third parties, but the first parties are putting out some good stuff as well. Obviously, it's not going to be the same amount as Nintendo because they're the only ones, delivering on their one platform, but Sony and Microsoft have a bunch of different people they can go to and say, you guys make games for our consoles, and they will continue to do so because despite the public perception that Xbox may not be doing super well, it still brings in big numbers, and it's still able to sell like these big indie games like Inside, which has just come out and is obviously going to do extremely well for them. So I think that the reason people do say the Xbox is failing, but the comparison to the Wii U is a very hard one to make because there are just so many differences outside of, hey, it's this number of units that have been sold.
Yeah, it's a weird one, and I almost thought this question was goading us, MBZ, to want to say, yeah, the media bias and they're all against Nintendo, but honestly, the Wii U is doing very, very badly. And we cannot wait for that NX.
I would say the media are biased in some senses when they're like, oh, the Wii U has no games.
Yes.
Like, the Wii U has plenty of absolutely fantastic games. It might not be the, overflowing floodgates of what the other consoles have, but when you look at a publisher and you look at someone, a company that has put out a amount of software on their own, what Nintendo have done is actually kind of admirable when you step back.
And it's more than anyone else when you think, even last year, you think
every year they put out way
games.
more software
Exactly.
first party than every other publisher combined. Like they obviously have to because that's the situation they're in, but they have a prolific amount, coming out. So there are certainly things that we can say the media are uninformed on, but we use a bad situation. It's dire, and Xbox is doing bad as well, and people do perceive it as doing poorly, but it's actually not doing that terribly. The thing with Xbox is, because of the perception issues of them being behind, you now have them trying to, remedy that and get ahead by having things like Scorpio and playing the power game against Sony to try and go up and say, okay, we're kind of breaking away from the generation thing now. We're just going to have these iterations that continue to come and change the industry and do something different. I think they're smart to do it. Because they're not going to catch up to PS4 at this point. But I think that race between Microsoft and Sony is one that is just going to be ongoing and continuous, and I think that Nintendo are just stepping out of it, and they've been stepping out of it for a long time. They'll continue to do so, and just go after different audiences, different markets. I don't know. But yes, I think that's probably enough to answer what he thought there.
Our next email is from Jason Lee. Who's from West Virginia, USA, I should add. Bally and MBZ. This question is more for MBZ. Over a couple of recent episodes, I've listened to you gush about Stardew Valley. I've never played this game. However, listening to your description, it sounds like a knockoff of Harvest Moon and more recently Story of Seasons. I know you are both familiar with Harvest Moon because you've talked about some of the older titles. My question is this: why do you have no interest in the current Harvest Moon Story of Seasons games when Stardew Valley really appeals to you? With the exception of fighting enemies, which I think you said was a minor aspect of the game, almost everything you talked about in Stardew Valley applies to the Story of Seasons as well. I heard you both state that there hasn't been a good Harvest Moon game in years, and I completely disagree. I'm assuming you guys haven't tried a recent one because you haven't talked about one on your show. In my opinion, Story of Seasons is right up there with Friends of Mineral Town, generally regarded as the best Harvest Moon game. Over a period of 6 months, I put 180 hours plus into Story of Seasons, when I was finished, there was still more I could have played for. On top of that, it's portable, so curious to hear why there is no interest in it. Keep up the great show.
Okay, well, this is interesting.
Some accusations made, MBZ.
Some accusations made, yes, of course, levied, as they are. I think this is more of a broader narrative thing than it is necessarily talking about the quality of where the Harvest Moon games are at this point in time.
And we should make clear what you've played and what I've played out of all these games mentioned. So you've played Stardew Valley, absolutely loved it. You've also played in the Harvest Moon series A Wonderful Life on GameCube.
I did, yes.
And you liked that, although not as much as Stardew Valley.
Yes.
I've not played Stardew Valley yet. I plan to. I've also played Harvest Moon A Wonderful Life, and I've also played an incredible amount of Harvest Moon Friends of Mineral Town, and incredibly enjoyed it.
Yes. So here's the thing. I think over the years, the Harvest Moon name has maybe been dragged through the mud somewhat. I think that's a little bit to do with the problems with Natsume and the brands being thrown back and forth and all of that confusion with Story of Seasons now being the main thing. That didn't help in any regard. But also, like, Bally, you bought the DS version of Harvest Moon.
Yeah.
I can't remember which game that was, but
it was
I
literally
remember...
just called Harvest Moon DS.
Yeah, and I remember you had problems with it in terms of save stuff, which was just a weird bug thing. But I don't recall you being that positive about it in terms of gameplay and that kind of thing. It seemed like using a lot of gimmicks and touchscreen and not really focusing on the core of the experience.
I mean, ultimately, it's trying to take the idea of Friends of Mineral Town to a touchscreen, and mechanically, it's okay. Like, it's good, but it's just nothing like as slick as Friends of Mineral Town. And obviously Friends of Mineral Town, Jason Lee's right, is generally regarded as maybe the best Harvest Moon game. And out of the two I've played, I would agree, three I've played, I would agree with that sentiment wholeheartedly. I completely agree. I think the whole Harvest Moon has been on a bit of a decline, and maybe Harvest Moon hardcore fans still like the series and like Story of Seasons, but the media just aren't that hyped about it in the same way they used to be. Like, Friends of Mineral Town, to my memory, did really well amongst game critics and stuff like that. And honestly, like, no one ever really talks about Harvest Moon or Story of Seasons anymore.
You never hear any word of mouth about any of the Harvest Moon games. There's no buzz about it whatsoever. And what that leads me to believe is that the games are just kind of adding gimmicks and, trudging along. I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm just, like, extrapolating from where the DS game went. It seems like they sort of moved into this direction where they weren't, like, focused on a very pure, very clean experience and got bogged down in some of these, like, different things that they tried to shoehorn in. Now, Jason says that apparently Story of Seasons is kind of a return to that, and I am inclined to believe him. I think that a lot of people have been positive about it, but people haven't been, like, over the top, like, effusive in their praise. And I'm sure I would enjoy it if I played it, but there are a couple of reasons why I think Stardew Valley is hit and why it's hit big. Number one is price point. It is very cheap comparative to Story of Seasons. It's probably half the price, if not less. So the entry point is very easy for someone to jump in and say, I want to play a game like this, and it's a very small barrier of entry for me to do so. Second of all, it is very focused and simplified, and not simplified is probably the wrong word. I'd say streamlined is the correct word.
I think almost a big part of the success of Stardew Valley, from everything that you've said, MBZ, obviously it's hit amongst fans incredibly well. But the thing is, Stardew Valley is reaching out to people who hadn't played any Harvest Moon game before. And although you had played A Wonderful Life, you hadn't played Friends of Mineral Town. Stardew Valley, in my mind, sounds like a modernized Friends of Mineral Town, but improved and an awful lot cheaper. And because, as we've just said, Friends of Mineral Town is such a great game, and I'm really pumped to try out Stardew Valley. I just think it's reaching out a modern Friends of Mineral Town to an audience who haven't played Harvest Moon, and ultimately that's just going to really strike a chord because it's such a great game.
Yeah, it's a combination of it being extremely well made and it hitting Steam, which is an audience on PC who are not familiar with this series because most of them are on portables or Nintendo systems. Yeah. And at the same time, it just being so polished and extremely well done, and coming out of this, success story of this one guy who made it, who, a labor of love, who knows the Harvest Moon games incredibly well.
It's a fantastic story that's really spread online.
Right, exactly. And because of that, people have been talking about it. It's got buzz. Everyone has been playing it, and therefore it kind of perpetuates throughout the media and throughout people talking about it, which makes people care and pay attention. So maybe Stardew Valley is just as good as Story of Seasons or vice versa. The difference is there's word of mouth and buzz and popularity around this one thing, and the other thing is just a continuation of this long-running franchise that most people have fallen off of. And so, despite the fact that I could have gone out and chosen to buy Story of Seasons, Stardew Valley, from all other options, seemed like a much better choice, and I ended up absolutely loving it. And the problem now is because I've played so many hours of that, I'm less inclined to go after, the Story of Seasons and maybe play that.
Like, I think it's very hard to play a game like Stardew Valley and then go straight to Story of Seasons or Harvest Moon.
Yeah, absolutely. I need a good long break. I mean, the last one I played was about 10 years ago with the GameCube game.
And it's
I
a
didn't
very
even play
slow
that
pace
much of
in
that
comparison,
one.
isn't it? Like,
yeah, it is. It is quite slow. I like that GameCube game, but it's also very kind of reduced in scope. There's not a lot you can do in it. It seems like one of the more minimalist Harvest Moon games.
Definitely.
I think again, Stardew Valley, when I talked about it, it's also a level of customization and shareability. The thing with Harvest Moon games, and I don't know if Story of Seasons does this, but there's a huge level of customization on your farm in Stardew Valley, and you can basically place buildings wherever you want. You can have like all these paving stones and all these things to make it look nice and personable and everything. And there are whole sites which are dedicated to just like taking an image of your entire farm and like sharing it with people and showing what your thing was, and whether you focus on crops and animals or whether you focus on like making diamonds with this, gem crafting machine and stuff like that. So from that perspective, it has the ability to perpetrate through people and get people talking. Unfortunately, it's just not happening with Story of Seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to play Stardew Valley when it comes out later this year on Wii U. And I would potentially be interested in Story of Seasons. I think I've said that on the show before.
Yeah, I mean, before Stardew Valley came out, I think your intention was probably to get Story of Seasons eventually.
Definitely.
But then, like, you think about it, and it's way more expensive. It doesn't have as good buzz about it, and Stardew Valley is just there, and it's coming to Wii U. So that's the thing. It's just the easier choice. It's the choice that makes sense for most people, and that's why everyone's talking about it.
And I think I will play Stardew Valley then. If I do play Story of Seasons, I'm going to need a hefty break in between. But it's something I would potentially come back to. But Jason Lee, like, honestly, from everything I've heard from MBZ and others talk about Stardew Valley, I'd highly recommend you at least give it a go, because it's pretty hype. It's pretty hype.
I think if you're a fan of Friends of Mineral Town, you would fucking love it. So.
But I think that is all we have got time for at this time.
Yeah, we've been overrunning in our games talking about
we're just
segment.
playing too many games, MBZ. We need to just chill out a bit. So
we do.
Until next time, for the email section, I'll say the email address one more time. That's thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That's thisnintendolife@gmail.com. Please send them in. And we will join you very soon in the third segment, where we are going to run down the rest of 2016 for Nintendo.
Alright everyone, welcome back to the third and final part of This Nintendo Life for this week. And we are going to be talking about the rest of Nintendo's 2016, some things they have coming up in the software department, and we're also maybe going to speculate a little bit about how Nintendo could talk about NX when they do talk about it, maybe workshop a bit of a NX reveal event, say what we would like to see, and things of that nature. So, Bally, I think we're going to jump into it with some video games that are going to be released soon. And we've got a couple of release lists here. This probably isn't a full list of everything that's coming out, but it's kind of the best of our abilities right now. It seems hard to figure out what Nintendo are actually releasing over the next few months.
And one thing that sticks out to me about these lists is how few games on them we really care about.
Yes.
So I guess we could run through them incredibly fast and maybe talk a bit more on a couple of the games that we are potentially going to pick up.
Yeah. So going down the list, we'll start off which is coming out, I think, next week, which is Monster Hunter Generations. And this is obviously the continuation of the Monster Hunter series. I think people who like it, people who don't. And I started to watch a little bit of the Giant Bomb quick look of this. I haven't got too deep into it. But seems like it's just more Monster Hunter, Bally.
Yeah.
I think people said that the one to jump into was Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. So probably if I was going to pick one up, I'd still go for 4 Ultimate, especially because it'll probably be cheaper at this point. But
yeah, I think it's something we should probably at least try at some
I think it would be really fun for us to both just, maybe pick up a used copy or whatever,
Yeah.
an old copy of an old game, and because it has the multiplayer online stuff, do it together. That would be cool.
Yeah, something like that. But there's nothing standing out to me about it that makes me want to pick it up.
No, and I've listened to 8-4 Play talk about it. They say there's some cool super moves and shit in it, but that's pretty much it. The next thing, apparently on the same day, Disney Art Academy is coming out, Bally. This is an interesting one because I remember James Jones talked about it on RFN about how this is this interesting, first kind of partnership maybe with Disney and Nintendo. And I remember them showing off it being like, you can draw Elsa now, but do you think this is maybe a first step in a blossoming relationship that could occur in the future?
It could be, but ultimately the only sort of properties they're giving over are sort of two-dimensional print, like pictures. It's not like they're animating a whole story or anything. It's very simplistic. So it is intriguing. I've always thought that Disney and Nintendo, they've got something going on. They should do something together in the future. But especially with Disney Infinity now kaput, who knows? But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, no, I think that, Disney licensing out their properties to different companies to make games from, Nintendo should probably get in line and say, by the way, we could probably do a good game.
I mean, how cool would Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games be if they just swapped Sonic for Mickey Mouse?
Well, it still wouldn't be cool.
No, it still wouldn't
be
be
a terrible
cool.
minigame collection.
But, get Mickey Mouse and Smash Brothers. I've always been in favour of that.
Oh, man, I think that's actually a good shout, as Mickey Mouse and Smash. That would be fucking crazy.
For sure.
So next up is Jotun Valhalla Edition. I think Jotun is a game that came out on Steam last year. This was one of those games they showed off E3 with Jeff Keighley when they did this little kind of Nintendo Indies thing there. It looked interesting. I don't know, not much to say about it. It seems like an action game, so that's pretty cool. Futuridium EP Deluxe. I don't know what this is. Seems like a video game. You fly throughout a space at breakneck speeds and obliterate huge dreadnoughts, apparently, Bally, is what they say. Wow. So I imagine that might be something like Nano Assault, maybe? I don't know. It could be a shooty game.
It's not top of my priorities.
And then here's a big one. The Metroid Prime Federation Force, which is coming out apparently on the 2nd of September. And I believe that this is going to be an interesting one to follow, Bally.
Yes.
We're going to be on the fence until reviews come out, but I really have a lot of faith in Next Level. They are a really great development studio, and they have made excellent games. And I think this one has been given short shrift, unfortunately, because the way it was revealed and everything surrounding it. But it could still turn out to actually be a good game, so I'm trepidatious about it.
I think we're keen to do potentially a Triforce Heroes on it, where a big focus they've indicated of the game is, the co-op multiplayer and this sort of thing. So we're going to wait for those reviews, like you said, see how it pans out, and then potentially we might both bite and then do a good solid playthrough quite quickly. And like Triforce Heroes was a great time. So, and you're right, Next Level Games, they make fantastic games. So I've got a bit of faith.
Yeah. If nothing else, we'll get an entertaining Giant Bomb quick look out of it. So
for sure.
I'm up for that, if nothing else. So yeah, it's Gotta watch it. Gotta keep it on our eyes because it's like one of the more high profile ones. Funnily enough, this year that's been coming up. So
wasn't mentioned at E3 like you predicted.
Yes, no, that's true. But it will eventually have some attention placed on it. So the time is coming. The next one is one that I want to place some attention on, which is Dragon Quest VII: Fragments of the Forgotten Past.
Is this originally a PlayStation 1 game?
Yes, it was PS1.
Okay.
I think it came out in the West, but I feel like the translation was either bad or just like not. It was just a game that not many people played, I think, on the PS1.
You love them. You love them RPGs.
Yeah, so I've been playing a lot of RPGs recently, and the only Dragon Quest game I've played is 9, which I thought was great. I want to play this. I think that I may just wait for Dragon Quest 8 instead, and maybe pick this up later, and maybe play it, when it's cheaper. But it's got me interested in seeing as 8 doesn't seem to be having any kind of release date anytime soon. I think that might be a 2017 game. So I'll see how my backlog is looking around September time, Bally. If there aren't too many big other games coming, then I will probably grab it and play it, because it's like apparently 100 hours. So it's meat. Some hell meat.
That is some meat.
Yes. And I don't think we have any like set in stone release dates for many more of these. But there are some indie games coming out that some of which were available last summer through the Nindies thing, and some of which have been recently announced. And I know that you are looking forward to playing because I've played them already. The big one, of course, is Axiom Verge,
yes.
which seems very much at home on a Nintendo platform.
Yeah, I'm really keen to pick it up. I know you're a big fan. Solid Metroidvania, but let's do it.
Yeah, totally. It's really cool. I think that you are going to have a lot of fun with it. And I think you are someone
I hope they don't overprice it. They always do that on Wii U, don't they? It's going to be like 12, 15 quid.
So, yeah, this will probably be more on the 15 end. Axiom Verge was pretty expensive when it first came out on Steam, actually. I think it's one of those things where indie games sometimes price themselves maybe a bit too cheap for what they're worth. I think Axiom Verge knows it's good and knows it's worth the money. So despite the fact that it's probably going to be a bit more premium than other indie games, I would say despite that, you should probably still pick it up when it comes out, because it's worth it.
And I'm going to try and clear a lot of the backlog before then.
Totally. And then another one, which I've been really interested in picking up on Vita, I just haven't had the chance yet, is Severed, which is Drinkbox Studios' next game. We fucking love Drinkbox Studio, at least I do, from both games that they've released. You've only played Guacamelee, Bally.
Yes,
but I've also played Mutant Blob's Attack on Vita, and man, they fucking amazing studio. I love both of those games. Guacamelee is one of my favorites, and Severed has been getting great buzz. Apparently is fantastic, and it's a genre I've never played before. It's like a first-person dungeon crawler, but it has these kind of like rhythm-based touchscreen attack style stuff. And I listened to Greg and Colin on PS I Love You talk about it, and they were enamored. They thought it was fantastic.
It looks a bit like Fruit Ninja.
A little bit, yeah. Funnily enough,
just
but
a little bit.
What if you took a shitty mobile game and made it good? That's what happened here, apparently. So I have 100% faith in these guys, and Wii U seems like probably the best platform to play it on, because you have the stylus, so you're not using your thumb or finger on a Vita touchscreen, which may be a little bit more awkward and covering up and stuff like that. So, looking out for Severed. We'll see. They are going to also release Runbow on handheld and on console at retail, which is cool. Bally, you've played some Runbow. I'm going to get to it at some point. We both own it.
I've played a little bit multiplayer, only 2-player, which I don't think is the best use of the multiplayer in that game. I'd be keen to try maybe 4, 5, or 6-player, because it obviously goes up that high.
Yes.
And I think we're both going to play through the single-player story mode on that game.
Totally. I'll get around to it.
Blast through it. So yeah.
Good humble bundle pick that was.
Yeah.
So next up, apparently on the 30th of September, the return of the big man himself, Sonic Boom, Fire and Ice Man.
God.
Loving a bit of Sonic Boom.
He's all warmed up from the Olympics, and
he is.
By that time, he's going to want to cool down, and with a bit of the ice.
Now, do you
Fire
think
and
Sonic
ice.
represents the fire or the ice here? Is he the Jon Snow or the Daenerys? That's what I want to know, Bally. How do you think
knows?
Sonic?
Who knows?
Is Knuckles who features in this equation, man? I want to know.
I just want to play more. I just want to play more Freedom Planet. Really.
Yeah,
I can't
really.
I can't be hooped with Sonic.
Oh boy. The funny thing is, apparently Fire and Ice is being developed by Sanzaru, who are a different developer than did the first one. And Sanzaru actually did a really good Sly Cooper game, Sly Cooper 4, which was very well received by people. I actually played first 5-6 hours of Sly Cooper 4 before my PlayStation Plus ended and I didn't have access to it anymore. But it was great and I enjoyed it. So maybe they can actually make a decent Sonic game. I'm not saying it's going to happen, Bally, but there's a chance.
Who knows? Who knows with that blue dude anymore?
And then 3 of these games, which were all on the Nindies bundle, Nindies at Home, demo thing last year, Forma 8, Rive, and Soul Axiom. Bally, I know you enjoyed Rive.
I really did enjoy the Rive demo. It was probably my favourite demo, actually, and I managed to play every one, which was good.
Yeah.
So, no, it's kind of slightly Metroidvania, but it's kind of cool. It reminds me a lot, actually, of affordable space adventures in a funny way, in a sort of single-player blasty kind of way. But yeah, we'll see. There's a lot on my plate. I might not pick it up, but it's interesting.
Then Poncho's coming out. I don't know what this is. It's apparently a platformer, so that's cool. Paper Mario Color Splash on the 7th of October. We all know that that's going to be an utter disappointment, but we'll take it as it comes.
See, we gotta play the N64 one at some point.
Yeah,
that's
certainly.
what we're gonna do.
Mario Party Star Rush on the same day. Again, lovely SpaghettiOs artwork on a Photoshop background. Shows how much they care about that game. Although, having said that, that weird kind of multiplayer Fire Emblem setup it had was so strange. And it's a one that I will enjoy the quick look of and then move on with my life. But the big one, Bally, that America already has, but we don't. Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix, which in this country is the Rhythm Paradise series.
Why did they change the name?
Well, fucking Pushmo pull blocks, Bally. It annoys me as well. But everyone's talking a hot game about Rhythm Heaven. Have you watched anything about this game yet?
No, I've not. But so many of the podcasts I listen to, they're obsessed with Rhythm Heaven. And it's something that I've never tried that I know I'll like. I mean, apparently it's very WarioWare, and I absolutely love WarioWare. So
you do.
Give me some Rhythm Heaven.
And then Sun and Moon, Pokemon Sun and Moon, coming out on November the 23rd. Which is, I think, like a week later for Europe than it is in North America. They did this with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire as well. No more of that same day release that they had with X and Y. They're like, X and Y every day, same day for the whole world. And then apparently UK retailers broke embargo because I went out to Asda the day before X and Y came out and bought it. So I think the Nintendo got angry at UK retailers, and therefore, in order to stop this break of embargo, they pushed it back a week for every Pokemon release.
They made it digital only.
Yeah. So basically, if you want to be angry it's coming out later here, blame Asda for being fucking assholes and putting it out early. I wasn't complaining because I got the game early, but it's all their fault.
I'm gonna pick this up. I'm keen. I played my first gen Pokemon start of the year, so I gotta play 7th gen end of the year. Makes sense. Yeah.
And then there's some other things I think more kind of America focused coming out. There's Azure Striker Gunvolt 2. I still have to play the first Azure Striker Gunvolt. Yokai Watch 2, which we only just got the first one here in Europe, and that's coming out in September in North America, the second one already. And then Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse is coming out in September as well for the North Americans. So, some stuff there that we probably will not see for a while because it needs to be localized and translated and all that nonsense. But it will come. The day will come, and we'll see those games. But that's pretty much it, Bally. A few picks there. I would say I'm most excited for Severed and Rhythm Heaven, I would say, are the two that I'm going to pick out there.
We mentioned it earlier in the show, but also Stardew Valley is coming to Wii U.
Yes, we have to say that.
So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for a bit of Axiom Verge. I'm interested to see how Federation Force does. Might pick it up, maybe not. And I'm keen to pick up Pokemon Sun or Moon.
Yeah, so there's still stuff to play, as they say. But, of course, Bally, we care about games, but I think the thing we care more about is...
You know it.
what the hell are Nintendo going to do for the Nintendo NX reveal? So I'm maybe cribbing this a little bit from the Easy Allies podcast. A couple of weeks ago, they decided they were going to do a little bit of a segment where they workshopped around an NX launch event. And Carl Bossman, who's in charge, he's the host of that podcast, said, like, you can't shoot down any ideas. If someone says an idea, you have to go along with it. You have to say yes. And they had some pretty absurd things to say. We may not go that far. We'll just kind of talk maybe a bit of shop about how should Nintendo reveal this? What is your ideal scenario, the perfect situation for them to come out and talk about NX? So, Bally, I think the first thing we need to nail down, number one, do they do a digital presentation? Is it a pre-recorded thing where you have like all this stuff that is set out?
Is this
ready?
What I want or what I think's going to happen?
This is what we want. This is what we want to happen. So, is it going to be a Nintendo Direct? Is it going to be a live stage show? How do they announce this thing before it happens? Do they say a week beforehand, we're going to put on a Direct? Do they say 3 days beforehand, this is going to be a show? I imagine if it's going to be a live show, they have to say a bit more in front of time so that they can get the media all in one place and sit them down and say, come to this event, you can play the games here, you can play the system here, and then report back and tell people about it.
I think they might do the stage show and do like a let's invite journalists and let them play on it. And I think they'll, the space world theory. I think
the space world theory is a strong theory.
I think they're gonna do it. What if the downside of the digital event that they could do is that how do they coordinate getting all those journalists to play it? Do they just do that separately?
I think that usually what happens, and I think this happens in the case of some Nintendo Directs, is usually around that time Nintendo set up events to get everyone to go to.
Those,
because you have like NVC and Game Explain always talk about after a Direct has happened. By the way, we were at an event, we got to play everything, so we'll tell you about it.
Embargo's lifted and they start talking about it.
Yes, exactly. So that's a possibility, but I think the hard thing with that from Nintendo's end is if they do that, they have to give press access early, and that means more chance of things leaking out early.
If they do those embargoes, you're right. So let's get them in a sealed container.
Yes.
Get them all to Japan. Let them play it.
But will it be a Japan thing? That's what I'm really concerned about. Is if they do this live event, I think they have to do it in America, especially because most of the games press, the known games press, are located there. And I think if you do it in Japan, you run the risk of not getting as much exposure to what is ostensibly the biggest audience that you can court, which is the North American market.
I don't know. I think every games journalist in their right mind on the west coast of the USA would happily go to Japan to see.
They would, but again, it seems like they would not want to make it inconvenient,
No, I know what you mean, but at the same time, them having to get all the systems out to America, using people to help move all those systems, that in itself is just more chance of leaking almost. So the idea that they can just set out their own thing at Nintendo HQ, get all the journalists over, keep it all contained, and then release the embargo at the same time while the journalists are over there, I think could work out better for them in terms of just controlling the event.
Yeah, I mean, we know Nintendo like to control the message. They want to be in charge of it. They don't want anything going awry. So that's the question. Do you think it will happen versus do you want it to happen? I 100% want them to do a live event. I think it would be a great thing to distinguish and delineate from what the Nintendo Directs have been. And I think that it's a big deal. And because it's a big deal, they want to do something different and make a show of it. And by having a live event and having Reggie come back on stage and stuff like that, you kind of garner some excitement that may have been lost in the past with them not doing on-stage E3 events.
I think that having talked it through with you and the idea of getting the journalists in the right place and when, I not only want this stage show in Japan, I think it's going to happen, to be honest. I like the idea of a digital event just because it's very clean and crisp. Wasn't that what they did with Wii U?
I think that Wii U was an on-stage thing, actually.
So what was I distinctly remember Iwata using those white gloves with a Wii U box.
Yeah, I think that was more before the launch, actually.
I've
That
got
was like
no, you're
an
right.
unboxing.
You're right. It was like an
Yeah.
unboxing. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna side with Stage Show. I think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I hope so. That's my desire. That's what I would prefer to see.
Let's talk timing.
Timing. The thing that makes sense here is you don't want to be too close to E3 because then people will say, well, why the fuck didn't you do it at E3? You don't want to be too close to the end of the year because then you're coming up against all the big games coming out and your attention being lost.
It's got to be before November, you're thinking.
It has to be. The best bet, I think, is mid-September. So Tokyo Game Show happens on the 15th of September. And the question is,
shall I just do it there?
Do you tie it to an event? That's the question. Like, I don't think they do. I think Nintendo have been moving away from TGS. They haven't gone in a very long time. It is not a thing that really many people pay attention to these days.
Isn't that strange that they're a Japanese company and they don't?
Yeah, but I don't know. Something about TGS just it's been waning in recent years. It's just not been the thing it used to be, and people don't really talk about it all that much anymore. And I think Nintendo, as they've been distancing themselves from E3, I think going back to another event that isn't like theirs and their own doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, Tokyo Game Show seems like it could happen, but I just don't think it's likely.
Why don't Nintendo put the final nail in the coffin of Tokyo Game Show by doing their reveal at exactly the same time?
God, that would be a bold fucking move, wouldn't it? That'd be mad.
Put your cards on the table.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll space it out and make sure it doesn't clash. But, I mean, what about just doing it a week after Tokyo Game Show? So while you've got a few Western journalists in town, get them out to Nintendo.
Or even the week before, that could work as well. Maybe get ahead of it.
That might also sink Tokyo Game Show.
Well, the other thing there is, like, if they do want to get it open to the public and get people to play NX, doing it the week before TGS and then going to TGS and showing stuff off there probably makes some sense, you know?
And then they don't have to worry about embargoes and all that.
Totally. And they also don't have to worry about setting up their own place for the public to come and play NX and to see what it's all about. So there is a possibility there. The other possibility, if we're talking about big game shows, is Gamescom. I really don't think that's going to happen. You know, for us personally, it would be fucking incredible if that happened.
It's a bit early, isn't it? We're only a month away. So.
Yeah, I think August, like, the end of August versus the beginning of June, like, it is 2 months ostensibly, but it doesn't seem like it's far enough divorced, you know? Like, June to August feels like compressed into the wings of the summer, you know? And I feel like you have to cross the September threshold before you can say, okay, we're far enough removed from E3. And that's where it's going to be. So so basically, I think their cutoff is October. They can't be any later than the end of October. That seems absurd, but they can't be any earlier than September. So I'm giving them that 2-month window. I think it's going to be more likely mid-September.
Oh, look forward to it. Like, what if we're all completely wrong and it's just going to be a digital event?
Yeah,
or direct.
I'm not going to put my money anywhere. I'm just going to say that I would prefer them to do it live. But I would not be surprised if they just did a digital thing. Because Nintendo do what they like these days. It's quite frank and obvious at this point. So, Bali, then let's talk about maybe some announcements, some games, some things they say on stage. How do they reveal it? I think, like, obviously one of the things they have to do is show controller and console together with one another, to avoid that confusion with the mass market and not have them repeat the mistakes of the past.
Don't make it white. Don't put Wii in the title.
Yes.
Those would be the two first things. I think that we obviously know Breath of the Wild's going to be launch, we think. I think they need something else big hitting, hard hitting. I'm thinking 3D Mario. I'm thinking that sort of level. Like, I think it needs something like that.
So, interestingly enough, Miyamoto gave an interview during E3 where he said that the 3D Mario game that they're working on is a little bit further behind than they probably would like it to be. And he said that it wouldn't be an NX launch title and that they probably would announce it at E3 next year. So, I think that one is one that we'd love to have a bit of info on, but I don't think that's going to be shown at the launch.
What was Retro Studios ever working on? Like,
yeah, that's a big one.
Whether it's Metroid or no, actually, don't we know it's don't we know that it's not Metroid?
Yeah, I think like there have been sources here and there and rumors and stuff, but I think that the running theory is that they're working on a new IP, and I think this is feasible. A couple of reasons. Retro have had their pedigree. They've taken 2 Nintendo franchises and done extremely good things with them. Nintendo has also seen very recent success with a new IP in Splatoon, and I think that giving them some reins and allowing them to do something a bit more Western, perhaps, and buff out Nintendo's lineup and make it a little more varied. I think that a new retro IP, if it was debuted and announced at this event, would be a very exciting thing, especially if you're holding this event in North America and announcing it to a Western audience, because they are the one big Western studio that Nintendo have. And I think that they have a lot of resonance in, places that are not Japan.
There was also a story I saw suggesting that Pikmin 4 was slightly delayed. So whether Miyamoto was referring to delayed from when it was meant to be potential on Wii U to just being on NX, which that could be positive, or whether it's now planned to be on NX and has been delayed further, and it's doing a Pikmin 3, which would be horrendous if that was the case. I could see Pikmin 4 potentially being in the launch lineup. We'll see.
Interesting. Now, here's another theory I have, Bally. It would back up also the idea that the September unveiling would work. Is Metroid Prime Federation Force coming out in August? And I think that they don't want to talk about anything Metroid until that game is out and done. And when it is out and done and off the coffers, then they can say, all right, strap in, boys. It's time for your real Metroid game. And they blow the doors off. They show a brand new Metroid. And I think this is going to be the showpiece. Metroid Prime 3, Corruption, was the first Wii game ever showed. It was a showpiece for that system. I think that got people excited. I think when you're thinking about new tech and a new system, one thing that does well is a flashy, graphically impressive video game. And I think Metroid has the potential to do that. And I think it's something that has goodwill written all over it. And NX needs to be a goodwill system.
Get the Nintendo hardcore on side straight away, just with one fell swoop.
And the reason this works is after Federation Forces come out, you no longer are throwing it under the bus with a new Metroid announcement. That's why they couldn't probably have done it at E3, because they still have to promote this other game that people don't care about. And when you have that out the way, then you are saying okay, what's the next thing? And then people will probably be happy and retract all their anger about the previous game.
Yeah, we'll see. Exciting times.
Is there an announcement of a game that you think should happen on stage, aside from this 3D Mario thing?
I mean, I do like your Metroid theory. What about something very obvious, the Mario Kart? Big.
That's very true.
Huge
Mario
seller.
Kart could be an obvious one.
Smash Kart as Smash Kart. Smash Kart, as we've been predicting for the next iteration of Mario Kart. So
do they retain the brand though? Do they still call it Mario Kart? Do they call it Super Smash Kart? That seems an interesting angle.
I think it would be called Mario Kart. Actually, I think it's too risky to ever.
It's too recognizable, isn't it?
Yeah, everyone knows Mario Kart. It'd be crazy to call it Smash Kart, I think. Even though obviously it'll still implement all the non-Mario characters. But I think that's an outside chance.
It is an outside chance. A couple of quick hits. Do we think that Reggie will pull the controller out of his pocket?
God, because now we're debating about the size. But Reggie's a big guy. He could have really big, deep pockets.
Reggie has big pockets. I'll tell you that much. Yeah,
he could pull out something huge.
Because that is a tradition, isn't it? You think back to the Game Boy Micro and him doing that. You think back to Iwata and the DS. They have this thing about having stuff in their pockets and pulling it out and holding it up and showing it to the world.
Yeah, I think he will.
And I think
grin on his face.
Especially if we go along the idea that we have a handheld and a console, pulling it out and saying this is, the handheld or the console version or whatever. And,
or if the console comes out of the floor and then Reggie walks on stage and gets the handheld bit out of his pocket and starts playing.
Yeah, totally. That is a thing that could really be a possibility. The other one was the new Zelda game, obviously, Breath of the Wild. How do we feel that that's going to be talked about? Do you think that there's going to be a side-by-side comparison of the Wii U version? Do you think there's going to be a bullet point list of this is what is going to be better in this game or change in this game? Will we get new footage that is the NX version? Will they demo the NX version? How do they handle Zelda at this NX event?
I think they could say something as simple as, oh yeah, the NX version, you get this extra dungeon or something crazy. I mean, nothing too much to divide fans, but something that makes people side with the NX version to help the launch of that system. So someone like us, who's obviously who owns Wii U's, and we're gonna get the NX, and say we were of the opinion, which we're not necessarily, that I love my Wii U. I wanna just sort of ceremonially play Zelda on the Wii U because I've not played a brand new Zelda game on it. I better get the Wii U version. I think they're going to do something to sweeten the deal for NX to make you buy that version.
Yeah, it has to happen because that's a big flagship thing, and there was so much buzz around it at E3 that they'd be stupid not to talk about it and not to sell it as, hey, our new system will come with this version, and this version is going to be kick-ass. So you'll want to buy the new system.
Do you think they'll do the kicker for you, MBZ, and say it runs at 60 frames per second?
I hope so. I hope they say that. If my big man Masahiro Sakurai was at the head of it, he would be doing that. Remember that Smash Brothers presentation where he kicks off and it's like, oh yeah, it runs at 1080p 60, and he's like, all the technical specs. I'm like, Sakurai, I love you. You're my favorite. So that would be great. But it's going to be, man, it's going to be a fascinating thing to watch, and I am intrigued to say the least. Like there's a buzz, there's a feeling, Bally, that things are just gonna kick off. It's gonna go down. I'm gonna be here to talk about it.
It's a long summer. It's a very long summer. It's gonna be Gamescom. We've got other stuff coming up. We've got so much. But yeah,
it's a busy time.
Talking of things we have coming up, we also have an announcement.
Do we, Bally? What is this announcement? Remind me.
Our next backlog club.
That is correct. That is correct.
So yeah,
before we end the show, we want to quickly mention that we are going to be doing another backlog club. Yay! If you haven't listened to the show before and you don't know what that is, this is a segment where we kind of choose a game to play as a community together, and once we've all played it, Bally and I have a long, in-depth conversation and encourage you all to send in emails about it and give your thoughts, and we'll bring those into our own conversation and discuss the game at length. And the game that we have chosen for our new backlog... Go on, give me one then.
I can't drum roll with my mic.
All right, okay, here we go. Bally, you get the honors, apparently. So here comes the drum roll.
We are going to be playing Earthbound.
Yes, the classic Japanese
Super
RPG.
Nintendo.
Yep, and it's a Nintendo franchise that we don't know much about. We've never played any of the Mother series before, and I've watched a playthrough of Mother 3, so I do have a good idea about what it's all about, but I think first-hand playing will be something valuable, and Bally has never played any of them, doesn't know anything about them, so it's going to be a really interesting trip.
I've even avoided a few things online about Earthbound, knowing that we're going to be playing it for this backlog club. So,
Yes, same. There are a couple of videos that came up where I was like, actually, I'm not going to watch that today because I want to play Earthbound instead without knowing anything and being spoiler-free. And I think it's a very narratively kind of driven game, so that is something that is worthwhile pursuing. But because this game is long, because it's an RPG, it's extra sized, we're going to give ourselves quite a long time to play it, and we're going to give you a long time to play it as well. So we're not saying this is going to be talked about any time in the near future. Probably the earliest will be around September time when we start talking about it. But do get started if you haven't played it before, and we encourage you to play along and send in your thoughts about it. If you've also already played Earthbound and you like the game and you want to talk about it, send us an email and tell us about your thoughts, and we'll probably bring those in as well into the conversation. Bally, where can they send all those thoughts about Earthbound?
Please send all your thoughts on Earthbound to thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. And
Excellent.
we should also add that Earthbound is available on the Wii U Virtual Console from the Super Nintendo. And also, if you're lucky like me and own a new 3DS, you can also pick it up on the new 3DS. Although I must admit, I bought it on the Wii U.
Yes, we both went on that sale because the sale was happening and it was a great price. That factors in maybe somewhat to us playing it, but we did decide we're going to play this a long time ago. And the timing has just, the stars have aligned, is what I say, Bally.
Stars have aligned. It's time to play Earthbound.
It is. So get on it. We'll be looking forward to it. In the meantime, you can follow us and our thoughts on all other video games on the internet. Bally, where can people find you?
Please find me on Twitter. I'm at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91. That is also my name on the Miiverse. Check me out on there. What am I posting at the moment? I'm posting a bit of Box Boy, I should say.
Yes.
Getting back into a bit of Fire Emblem Birthright.
Good stuff. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Lordnbz. I'm also Lordnbz on the Miiverse. And on my Miiverse, anime is happening.
Anime all over the shop.
A lot of anime is happening. Tokyo Mirage massage sessions, as I said, is in full flow.
We don't want to hear about that game.
Funnily more accurate than I would like to let on, but
oh
yes,
boy.
Anime is happening. Yes, okay. You can find the podcast on Twitter where there will be less anime happening, and that podcast account is at TNL Podcast. We put all our video things on there and all of our articles. We don't write articles. We should do that. Bally, let's write articles.
Let's write articles.
Let's make a website. Yeah, so you can follow all the other extracurriculars we do on the podcast Twitter. It's a good hub to gather around, like around a fire at a campfire.
iTunes on Mondays, YouTube on Wednesdays.
That is true. You can find us on Stitcher on iTunes. Review us on iTunes as well. Haven't had a review in a while, Bally. I'd like to fix that. If you're a bold person out there, you like the show, and you'd like to review us, go ahead and do it on iTunes. It's very, very helpful. Probably the most helpful thing you can do to help the show is on iTunes.
Really is.
Before we close, Bally, I just remembered a thing I wanted to talk about at the end of our segment.
Okay.
The name of the new console.
Oh boy.
The NX. This is a thing that I have been thinking about a lot. What do they call it? Do they change the name? Do you have a guess? And I want to bring up one of our favorite bands, Alter Bridge, because Alter Bridge, for the longest time for their third album, had codenamed it AB3. And that name had just perpetuated throughout fan circles forever and ever, and people were waiting and longing for it. And by the time the album came out, they're like, you know what, we're not just going to call it that. But everyone knows AB3, we just know what that is, so we're just going to call the album AB3. Does Nintendo pull an AB3, Bally? Is the NX name so widespread at this point that it is worthy of keeping? Do they change it? How do you think that goes?
I think it'd be interesting if they sort of kept the name, but you don't say NX, it's called the Nintendo Cross.
Okay.
Yeah, because obviously we're hyping it up to be, you know, handheld and home console. So
I feel that's maybe a little backwards though, because consoles we always like try and shorten down to the smallest thing possible, like anagrams.
Well, it'll just be called the Cross.
The Cross? You'd call it Cross?
Yeah, the Cross.
Oh man,
Cross.
It's just an angry console.
maybe that's going to get too religious. And
well, yeah, yes, true. Very true, actually.
Maybe not be applicable to a Western audience, but who knows?
Have you
got a name lined up, MBZ?
No, because naming consoles a fucking hard business. It sounds like a nightmare.
The Nintendo.
The Nintendo, yeah, plain and simple. It could be that. It very well could be.
The Nintendo One.
The One. Oh, fuck off. No. Get out. Oh, dear. All right. Well, with that, Bally, I think it's time to close things out.
I think it is.
Say goodbye to everyone and tell them all that we'll see them in a couple of weeks' time with another episode of This Nintendo Life and some more video games and some more things to talk about. So thanks, everyone, for listening. Appreciate you all sticking with us, and we'll be back in the near future. So see you then. Goodbye, everyone. The musical interludes used on today's show were the main theme from Freedom Planet, copyright Galaxy Trail 2014, and A Dark Fall from Fire Emblem Fates Conquest, copyright Nintendo 2016. Man, I don't fucking know what to say. Why is my brain just... What the fuck is going on? Okay. Alright, let's see.